Let's cut straight to the chase. Colin Kaepernick deserves to be in the NFL. He deserved it 3 years ago, and he deserves it now. No rewriting history will change that fact. A lot of pieces are coming out recently saying that now is the time for Kaepernick to get signed. While it would be better now than never, I'm not going to celebrate a team for doing what should have been done years ago. No amount of apologizing, whether it's genuine or not, from Roger Goodell and the NFL will make up for the fact that Kaepernick was robbed of at least 3 prime years of his career. With everything that is going on in the world currently, more people are coming along to say that Colin was right. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to applaud anyone for just now realizing what Kaepernick's message was all about, when this man straight up told everybody week in and week out 4 years ago, and y'all blissfully ignored him because you didn't want to face the harsh reality. Colin Kaepernick had the bravery to speak out about what he believed in, and what did he get for that? People ignored him, and NFL teams blackballed him. His message was distorted into things it was never about. Kaepernick first took a knee during the national anthem to protest police brutality and systemic racism in the 2016 NFL preseason. He made it explicitly clear what he was protesting when people began to notice.
Kaepernick spoke exclusively to NFL Network Steve Weish about the incident, saying, quote, "I am not going to stand up to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color." He went on to say, quote, "To me, this is bigger than football, and it would be selfish on my part to look the other way. There are bodies in the street and people getting paid leave getting away with murder," end quote.
Kaepernick was not protesting the anthem. It wasn't about the military, and it wasn't about the flag. It wasn't about hating the country. It was about wanting the country we live in to get better, for the flag to actually uphold the ideals it was meant to uphold.
I'm going to continue to stand with the people that are being oppressed. To me, this is something that has to change. And when there's significant change, and I feel like that flag represents what it's supposed to represent, and this country is representing people the way that it's supposed to, I'll stand.
If you truly love the idea of America and what it stands for, you must be willing to call out when the reality of America falls well short of that idea. And you must protest, if necessary, to remind people of what America is supposed to be.
I mean, ultimately, it's to bring awareness and make people, realize what's really going on in this country. There are a lot of things that are going on that are unjust, people aren't being held accountable for, and that's something that needs to change. That's something that, this country stands for: freedom, liberty, justice for all. And it's not happening for all right now.
One should not simply sit by and accept the atrocities of their country. Kaepernick saw unarmed black people being killed by police day in and day out, and he used his platform to speak out against it. This is what people with large platforms should be doing: speaking out for what they believe in and fighting injustice. Speaking out for those who don't have a voice.
There have been situations where I feel like I've been ill-treated, yes, but this stand wasn't for me. This stand wasn't because I feel like I'm being put down in any kind of way. This is because I'm seeing things happen to people that don't have a voice, people that don't have a platform to talk and have their voices heard and affect change. So I'm in a position where I can do that, and I'm going to do that for people that can't.
Every bogus argument that has been put out there over the past 4 years against Kaepernick is so easily shot down.
There is police brutality. People of color have been targeted by police. So that's a large part of it. And they're government officials. They're put in place by the government. So, that's something that this country has to change. There's things we can do to, hold them more accountable, make those standards higher. You have people that practice law and are lawyers and go to school for 8 years, but you can become a cop in 6 months and don't have to have the same amount of training as a cosmetologist. That's insane. I mean, someone that's holding a curling iron has more education and more training than people that have a gun and are going out on the street to protect us.
My personal feeling is if those players were to come out and say, "We love our nation, we are patriots, we love our flag, we honor the memory of those who died to give us our freedom, but we are protesting some of the brutality that has occurred, and that's why we're doing this, I think it would solve the problem, and I suggest that they do that.
From September 2nd, 2016, Kaepernick said, and I quote, "I'm not anti-America. I love America. I love people. That's why I'm doing this. I want to help make America better. I think having these conversations helps everybody have a better understanding of where everybody is coming from." Why doesn't he put his money where his mouth is? Kaepernick did and said all this 4 years ago, and yet here we are with the same issues still present. Racist white people who valued a piece of cloth over black lives were never going to change, but even allies are to blame for this. Kaepernick fell out of the public eye, and people forgot about his message. Like a lot of things in today's age, we saw something, got outraged by it, and then moved on to the next thing to get outraged by without ever even doing anything about it. With what is occurring in Minneapolis and other places currently, right-wingers are now claiming they support peaceful protests in response to the rioting. It's a slap in the face to Kaepernick and his supporters who were berated for years for disrespecting the flag. But we know they don't care about being hypocrites. Donald Trump called NFL players,
"Get that son of a bitch off the field right now. Out. He's fired."
For kneeling, and Mike Pence left a Colts game after the anthem because he did not want to dignify the demonstration. We shouldn't take these people seriously, but we also cannot allow them to rewrite history like this. This just proves that it was never about how you protest. It's the fact that people of color are speaking up that upsets them so much. There's little point to even argue about the kneeling during the national anthem anymore because every argument against it is so easily shot down. But it's disrespecting the military. In fact, it was retired Army Green Beret Nate Boyer who first suggested to Kaepernick that he kneel instead of sit as he originally planned to do, because taking a knee in the military is a sign of respect.
People were perceiving him sitting on the bench isolated from his team as disrespecting those that fought for this country and that flag. And he was very open to listening. We started to have a discussion about what he would do. He was planning on sitting that night, and I said, "Is there any other way you could take a stand without sitting for the anthem?" We came to a middle ground where I agreed to stand next to him if he took a knee.
Most of the crowd that's here in the stadium tonight was already in their seats by the time the national anthem began. Colin Kaepernick choosing not to sit on the bench this time, but to take a knee on the side of the field when that song rang out.
I don't understand how it's the wrong way. To me, this is a freedom that we're allowed in this country. And going back to the military thing, it's a freedom that men and women that have fought for this country have given me this opportunity by the contributions they have made. So I don't see it as going about it the wrong way. This is something that has to be said. It has to be brought to the forefront of everyone's attention. And when that's done, I think people can realize what the situation is and then really affect change.
You can protest, just don't do it at work. First, it's not written anywhere in NFL rules that it is illegal. Second, this was before the game. It's not like he protested in the middle of play. Last and most importantly, the point of a protest is to create disruption and gain people's attention. If he had done this at home, nobody would have given him any mind. Nobody paid any attention to the anthem before Kaepernick did this, and it instantly became Sunday's biggest draw. Even despite all the efforts to transform Kaepernick's message into something it wasn't, he was still able to bring awareness to the issue of police brutality. All Kaepernick ever did was peacefully protest, and he lost his career over it. He had the nerve to speak out, and he was silenced for it. There is no workaround for this. He was kicked out of the NFL because of racism. He was a prominent black man speaking out against hate crimes versus black people, and that was too far for NFL teams. As to why Kaepernick never received another job in the NFL in 2017, numerous myths and outright lies were spread. Again, they're all easily disproven. First is the myth that Kaepernick simply isn't good enough to be in the NFL. The league figured him out, they say. He was a one-hit wonder. The main piece of evidence people use to defend this argument is that the 49ers went 2-14 in Kaepernick's final season in 2016, or 1-10 in the games he started. I shouldn't have to explain why this is bogus. Football is a team game. You cannot judge an individual player on wins and losses, quarterback or otherwise. The 49ers self-destructed after the 2014 season. Jim Harbaugh left to coach at Michigan. Frank Gore, Michael Crabtree, and Mike Upati left in free agency. Alden Smith was released. Patrick Willis, Chris Borland, Anthony Davis, and Justin Smith retired, and Vernon Davis was traded. They were a shell of their former selves. Jim Tomsula and Chip Kelly traded turns being incompetent coaches in 2015 and 2016. And just look at the weapons Kaepernick was stuck throwing to. Of the 7 wide receivers on this team, only 3 of them ever played in the NFL again after 2016. Jeremy Curley, Torrey Smith, and Rod Streeter combined to play 5 more seasons, catching just 77 passes in 49 games. This was legitimately one of the poorest collections of skill talent in league history. Niners receivers had the 2nd highest drop rate in the league in 2016. Oh, and San Francisco also had the 30th ranked pass blocking offensive line, by the way, per Football Outsiders. They also had the 30th best defense in the NFL. No quarterback could have willed that team to success. Yet, despite all of this, Kaepernick still had his best passing season to date, throwing 16 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions. Despite what people will have you believe, Kaepernick actually developed into a good pocket passer. He was no longer just a drop back and run quarterback. Throughout all of 2016, Kaepernick threw just 7 interceptable passes. Just 2.1% of his throws were turnover worthy, good for the best mark in the league. Isn't taking care of the football the thing most teams say they want out of their backup quarterback? If so, then how did Ryan Fitzpatrick get signed in 2017 by Tampa Bay after his abysmal 2016 season, and Kaepernick did not? Kaepernick still has the 4th lowest interception rate in NFL history at just 1.8% of his throws. He also has the 6th best touchdown to interception ratio in NFL history at 2.4. 538, ESPN, and Football Outsiders all did some excellent research and found that no quarterback of Kaepernick's age and experience ever just disappeared from the NFL without a contract, no matter how badly they sucked. No one with a resume like Kaepernick's at his age ever just stopped playing in the NFL outside of their own accord. Even if you believe that he was downright terrible in 2016 and was the sole reason for his team's failures, compared to past quarterbacks, he was still good enough to get another shot. Terrible quarterbacks who have failed and failed time and again have gotten multiple opportunities in the NFL, and they don't have a Super Bowl appearance on their resume like he does. In Kaepernick's final game, he outplayed Russell Wilson in Seattle, putting up higher yards per attempt, completion percentage, and passer rating numbers. But people will ignore that game and just point to the windy Chicago game where Kaepernick threw just 5 passes, 3 of which were dropped. Funny. Also funny is the idea that gets thrown around that says Kaepernick got benched for Blaine Gabbert and that somehow proves that he's garbage. First of all, since when do you take any NFL coach's word for gospel, let alone Jim Tomsula or Chip Kelly? Not exactly the talent evaluators I would hang my hat on, but you do you. Secondly, this never happened. Kaepernick injured his shoulder in 2015, played a few games on it, and then submitted to surgery in injured reserve. Kaepernick was still recovering from this injury in the 2016 preseason when Gabbert won the competition. Once Kaepernick was healthy, he instantly took the job and ran with it. Every year that Cap has been out of the league, he has been good enough to be a starter, or at the very least, one of the top backups in the league somewhere. If you're not willing to go that far, just take a look at a list of notable quarterbacks who started games in 2019 alone. Joe Flacco, Eli Manning, Kyle Allen, Matt Schaub, Chase Daniel, Jeff Driscoll, David Blau, Robert Griffin III, Brian Hoyer, Duck Hodges, Mason Rudolph, Brandon Allen, Colt McCoy, A.J. McCarron, Josh Rosen, Sean Mannion, Ryan Finley, Trevor Siemian, Will Grier, and Luke Falk. This isn't even including the other backups who didn't see action that Kaepernick is clearly better than. It's also not mentioning the starters that he would have been an improvement on. Are you going to look at me with a straight face and tell me that Mitchell Trubisky is a better quarterback than Colin Kaepernick? I thought not. Also, I didn't even dive into the quarterbacks who started games in 2017 and 2018, like Nathan Peterman, who famously had the biggest faceplant of all time with 5 first-half interceptions against the Chargers in his debut, and then still opened the following season as the Bills' starter. But tell me more about how Kaepernick clearly just wasn't talented enough to play in the NFL again. The Eagles brought 40-year-old Josh McCown out of retirement for the second time last August to be their backup, and he played in a playoff game for them, for crying out loud. McCown is also a great example against the QB wins argument as well. Sure, the 49ers went 4-20 in Kaepernick's final 24 games, but McCown went 2-22 in his final 24 games, before being signed to a $6 million deal with the Jets and opening 2017 as their Week 1 starter. But he's too much of a distraction. To who? Shown in a clip during ESPN's The Last Dance, then Bulls coach Phil Jackson put it perfectly when asked about Dennis Rodman missing practice. "It's not a distraction for us, it's a distraction for you," he told the media. If winning truly is all that matters, as so many football people say, then why does what someone on the outside says matter? Wouldn't you want to improve your team at all costs? If the Steelers truly cared about winning, they would have not stuck with the Hodges-Rudolph train for 14 weeks last season. Kaepernick would be a distraction because people would make it so just to prove a point. If someone signed him, things would eventually die down after a while, as they ordinarily do, as they did with Tim Tebow and the Jets. If Kaepernick is such a toxic distraction, then why, in 2016, did his 49ers teammates vote for him to win the team's Len Eshmont Award? The award is described as the team's most prestigious annual honor and has been given each year to the 49ers player who best exemplifies the inspirational and courageous play of Len Eshmont. In the NFL, kneeling during the national anthem is a distraction, but beating women and children are A-OK apparently. Make it make sense. Another bogus argument that often comes up for why Kaepernick is not in the NFL is because he's been out of the game for too long. This one is almost too laughable to even address, but I will. You can't purposely keep someone away from something and then use the fact that you kept them away as reasoning to continue keeping them away. Aside from that, it's also simply not true. Just look at Josh Johnson. Washington signed him in 2018 after Alex Smith's horrific leg injury, and he wound up starting 3 games for them. Thing is, the last time Johnson had attempted an NFL pass was in 2011. And Johnson never had the kind of success that Colin had. He had thrown 5 touchdowns to 9 interceptions across 5 career starts, all of which were losses. It's not as if Washington was some terrible team tanking for the top draft pick either. At the time of Smith's injury, they were 6-3 and sitting atop the NFC East. They finished the year 7-9. If only there had been a quarterback with noted postseason success on the market. And no, I don't mean Mark Sanchez. Sanchez was also signed off the street in November that year after having not started in the NFL since 2 forgettable games in 2015. It took him just a week to start a game in Washington and just another week to lose the starting job because of his predictably horrendous play. Heck, Adam Schefter even reported last summer that an NFL team offered 38-year-old J.P. Losman a deal to come out of retirement and play for them. Yes, the same Losman who hadn't been in the NFL since 2011 and hadn't started a game since 2008. The same Losman whose career-high QBR was 46.8 in 2006. Teams give washed-up bad quarterbacks shot after shot, but Kaepernick has never even gotten a single contract offer. But wait, you heard that he turned down John Elway and the Broncos, right? Well, you heard wrong. There were negotiations between Kaepernick and Denver. However, those negotiations occurred in April 2016, i.e. 4 months before he ever began kneeling during the anthem. In order to complete this trade to Denver, Kaepernick would have been forced to forfeit $4.9 million of his $11.9 million contract. Understandable why he would turn it down. Again, that was in early 2016. No other negotiations occurred with Denver after that. John Elway never offered Colin Kaepernick a contract in 2017. What about the Ravens? Didn't they offer him a deal? Ray Lewis claims that the team passed on signing Kaepernick in 2017 because of this tweet. You saw that correctly. Apparently the team passed on signing a player because of something his girlfriend tweeted. Since when has that mattered? Also, Lewis hadn't been a member of the team for 4 years at this point, so I'm not sure what kind of input he would have had on the situation. While debating whether or not to sign Kaepernick, Ravens owner Steve Bisciotti asked fans to, quote, pray for us. Bisciotti also said that he did not like the quarterback's anthem protests. So ask me why I don't think he was being completely genuine with the entire gesture in the first place. The Seahawks are the only other team linked to Kaepernick in any capacity. He visited with them in 2017, but again, no contract was offered. At the time, Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll said, quote, "Colin's been a fantastic football player, and he's going to continue to be. At this time, we didn't do anything with it. We know where he is, who he is, and we had a chance to understand him much more so. He's a starter in this league, and I can't imagine somebody won't give him a chance to play." So, you think he's a starter-worthy player, but you won't even bring him onto your team when you have a chance? Not even when Trevon Boykin and Jake Heaps are the only quarterbacks on your roster behind Russell Wilson? Not only that, but the Seahawks went out and signed Austin Davis instead. That's okay, I don't blame you if you have to pause and Google his name. Even giving Carroll the benefit of the doubt that he doesn't deserve here, and assuming he didn't sign Kaepernick because he felt some other team would sign him and give him a better shot at playing time, how long are you supposed to wait to realize that that's not happening? It didn't happen in 2017, nor 2018, nor 2019, and still not in 2020. This explanation that you didn't sign him because you thought he was better than what you were offering simply doesn't hold up with NFL standards, as teams are always looking to improve depth at every position. Now, Carroll expresses regret that they didn't sign him back in the day, but makes sure to note that they're set right now and it doesn't seem like a fit. I agree, Pete. Geno Smith is the perfect backup, especially to a mobile quarterback like Russell Wilson. I hope you can all hear my audible eye roll. It's all laughable. Laughable. We shouldn't be surprised, though. I mean, Carroll is also the same guy who invited Jordan Peterson to talk to his team. Yes, the same Peterson who has a history of making sexist, racist, and Nazi-apologetic remarks. Well, if Kaepernick really wanted a job, then why did he opt out of his contract with the 49ers? Because the 49ers were going to release him if he didn't. New general manager John Lynch stated as much when he first came on board. He said so emphatically, in fact. Opting out allowed Kaepernick to get a head start on finding a new team, and moving on from Kaepernick allowed the 49ers to jumpstart their rebuild with a brand new team. These are verifiable, undeniable facts. One simple Google search will give you all the answers you desire. You don't have to keep embarrassing yourself with such easily disproven narratives, I promise. But his demands are too high. I heard that he wants $20 million a year. Oh, he personally told you that, did he? Until his personal workout in 2019, Kaepernick has largely stayed silent on his wants and needs because anything he says can and has been used against him. It would be stupid for him to publicly announce any contract demands. The report of him wanting $20 million a year came from one anonymous source, and everybody ran with it. It was shortly debunked, but the narrative was already set. Even assuming this was true, it was a report of his demands to play in the AAF or XFL, not the NFL. In other words, it would have been his way of saying that he was not going to demean himself by playing in a lesser league. The average salary for XFL players was $55,000, so obviously this demand wouldn't have been serious for this league. Joining one of those leagues would have been a lose-lose situation for Kaepernick. Had he excelled, it wouldn't have mattered because of the lowly competition. Had he for some reason failed, then it would have been all the proof that his doubters needed. He would have gotten paid peanuts for being a sideshow. But he blew off the NFL when they gave him a workout. This one is also laughable. This is exactly the type of response the NFL was hoping for when they put together that half-hearted sham of a workout. It was nothing more than a PR stunt to make it look like they were trying. One look into the details of this workout would tell you otherwise. It was a bizarrely rushed situation that nobody knew about ahead of time. The workout was announced by the league on a Tuesday to be held that Saturday. NFL representatives told Kaepernick and his team that they needed an answer in 2 hours or they would not go through with the workout. Kaepernick asked if the workout could be held the following week, and the NFL was firm that it had to be held that Saturday, i.e. they gave him a 96-hour notice after being shut out for nearly 3 years. Kaepernick asked for a list of teams in attendance, and the league said that they would provide it. Then, on Wednesday, they changed their mind and decided not to reveal the list. After more bad PR on Thursday, they once again changed their minds and gave Cap a list of 11 teams. The reason it was only 11 teams? because like everyone else, teams had no idea that this was happening until it was sprung upon them on short notice. On top of that, not only are NFL teams usually preparing for games the following day on Saturdays, but they're also scouting college football players. This is why player workouts are usually held on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, not Saturdays. The league got Hugh Jackson to run the event, who is not exactly the most qualified coach in league history to say the least, and even he wasn't notified until Thursday. The league also refused to tell Kaepernick who he'd be throwing to in his workout, so Kaepernick had to fly out former NFL wide receivers who volunteered to help him. Additionally, according to Kaepernick's representatives, the NFL demanded Kaepernick, quote, sign an unusual liability waiver that addresses employment-related issues, and rejected the standard liability waiver from physical injury proposed by Mr. Kaepernick's representatives. Finally, the NFL also both refused to allow Kaepernick's camp to record the workout and refused to allow any media members to record the event. The NFL refused to allow anyone other than themselves control of the workout tapes. All that said, I assume you can see why Kaepernick was unhappy with the workout the NFL designed for him and why he ultimately moved the workout to a local high school where all media was allowed. Of course, the NFL released statements trying to paint Kaepernick as the bad guy, but there's simply no way you can look at the facts of the case and come out as seeing the NFL as victims. In the end, the NFL set Kaepernick up for a lose-lose situation. He goes through with their contrived workout where they control the message, and no matter how well he performed, there's no telling how the NFL would deliver the message. If he for some reason performed poorly in this workout that was thrown together 3 days earlier, mind you, it would be all the proof anyone needed to say that he's simply not good enough. And of course, if Kaepernick declined the NFL's offer as he did, they would say they did all they could to do to help him, but he was simply uncooperative, all the while knowing what a farce it was. It was an ambush, a public relations trap meant to finally get rid of the pesky player who kept messing up the NFL's PR image. Etan Thomas put it best when he said, mostly it feels like a guy inviting an old girlfriend to dinner and getting her hopes up at the thoughts of reconciling when he has zero interest other than ending the relationship on good terms. He wants her to think he's a good guy, so she tells all her friends that he isn't the lying and manipulating pig they all know him to be. Kaepernick also didn't hold back after the workout.
How's everybody doing?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Hey, let me start by saying I appreciate y'all coming out. That means a lot to me. Our biggest thing with everything today was making sure we had transparency of what went on. We weren't getting that elsewhere, so we came out here. It's important that y'all are here. Y'all been attacked for the last 3 years. Y'all continue to be attacked. We appreciate what y'all do. We appreciate you being here today. We appreciate the work you do for the people and telling the truth. That's what we want in everything. I've been ready for 3 years. I've been denied for 3 years. We all know why I came out here, showed it today in front of everybody. We have nothing to hide. So we're waiting for the 32 owners, the 32 teams, Roger Goodell, all of them to stop running. Stop running from the truth, stop running from the people. We're out here, we're ready to play. We're ready to go anywhere. My agent Jeff Nally is ready to talk to any team. I'll interview with any team at any time. I've been ready, I'm staying ready, and I'll continue to be ready. And to all the people that came out here today to support, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. To the people that aren't here, I'm thinking of you. I appreciate you supporting from where you are. We'll continue to give you updates as we hear. We'll be waiting to hear from Roger Goodell, the NFL, the 32 teams. We'll let you know if we hear from them. Ball's in their court, we're ready to go.
There's a growing petition online for Kaepernick to finally get a job in the NFL with all that is happening. I would obviously not be opposed whatsoever if it finally happened, but I will not celebrate a team doing something it should have done years ago. I will not allow the NFL to continue their lack of self-awareness with tone-deaf, hypocritical posts like this, ignoring what they did to Kaepernick. It took 3 statements from the NFL before they finally admitted they were wrong for silencing peaceful protests. This only after NFL players specifically called them out on it. It took them another couple statements to actually mention Colin Kaepernick by name when Roger Goodell said he supported and encouraged NFL teams to sign Kaepernick. I'm sorry if I don't fully believe your sincerity 4 years after the fact. He deserved a job 3 years ago. It shouldn't have taken 4 years for this many people to finally understand his message. I will not celebrate people overcoming their willful ignorance. At this point, Colin Kaepernick is sadly almost better off not coming back to the NFL. The NFL robbed him of his ages 30, 31, and 32 seasons in the league, prime years he will never get back. Any development he could have possibly had were put on permanent hold. If he were to come back now and struggle, people would inevitably use it as proof that he was never good enough, when obviously that's a bad faith argument. He will never get a fair assessment as a player. Ideally, Kaepernick would be the perfect backup for any team. I'd rather have a talented, athletic backup who can make things happen on his own over a guy who is kept around simply because he knows the system, like a Chase Daniel. As it has been for the past 3 years, Kaepernick is better than almost every single backup quarterback in the NFL, and some starters as well. Talks of him potentially being a distraction are overblown, as a lot of the talk would die down immediately as the games start, with fans just wanting to see their teams win games. Point is, every single argument against Kaepernick being in the league over the past 3 years is easily refutable. The man deserves his place in the league, but at this point you can't blame me for not holding out any hope. Until then, Kaepernick will continue doing what he has always done, putting his money where his mouth is. He recently launched a fund to hire top defense lawyers for people arrested while protesting police brutality in Minneapolis after the murder of George Floyd. If more people could be like Colin Kaepernick, the world would be a better place. Black Lives Matter. If you want to help the cause in any way, I've left some links in the description below.